Your mind is busy. Thoughts come and go all day long. Some are helpful. Some make you anxious, doubt yourself, or feel stuck. Most people believe that these thoughts define who they are, but they don't. You are not your thoughts. You are the one noticing them. You are the one who can choose which thoughts to listen to and which to let pass. This audiobook is about taking control of your mind. It is about learning how to stop letting every passing idea dictate your feelings, actions, or confidence. You will discover how to observe your thoughts without judgment, question the ones that hold you back, and replace them with stronger, more empowering beliefs. You will learn how to train your mind daily, build awareness, and develop habits that support growth, focus, and emotional control. By the end of this journey, you will have practical tools you can use every day. You will understand how to create space between yourself and your thoughts, how to guide your mind with intention, and how to commit to lifelong self-mastery. Each chapter is designed to give you clear steps that improve your life now, not someday in the future. If you want to feel calmer, think more clearly, and take real control over your life, this audiobook will show you how. It is time to stop reacting to your mind and start guiding it. You are about to learn how to make your thoughts work for you instead of against you. Chapter 1 scene: recognize that thoughts appear, but they do not define you. Your mind can produce a thought in a second, and that thought can feel loud enough to shape your whole day. A memory can rise. A fear can appear. A sentence can form in your head, and suddenly it feels like truth. That is how many people lose peace without even noticing it. They hear one harsh thought and obey it. They see one painful memory and build a story around it. They imagine one future problem and begin to live inside it before it has even happened. The result is a life ruled by noise instead of wisdom. This is where control begins, not by trying to stop every thought, not by forcing the mind into silence, not by pretending that pain does not exist. Real control begins when you understand a simple truth that can change everything. Thoughts appear, but they do not define you. A thought is not a command. A thought is not your character. A thought is not your identity. It is only something that has entered the mind. It may come from memory. It may come from fear. It may come from stress. It may come from habit. It may even come from a tired body or a heavy day. But its presence does not mean it is wise. Its intensity does not mean it is true. Its repetition does not mean it deserves your loyalty. Many people suffer because they mistake mental activity for reality. They think every thought must be answered. They think every worry must be solved right away. They think every negative sentence in the mind must be believed. That habit creates weakness. It gives power to things that were never meant to rule a life. A person begins to say, "I am not good enough," because that thought showed up. A person begins to believe, "I will fail," because that fear appeared. A person begins to feel broken because the mind produced pain. But none of these thoughts are facts just because they were felt deeply. You are the one who notices the thought. That matters more than the thought itself. The moment you notice it, you step into a higher place. You stop being carried by every wave. You start standing on solid ground. Awareness gives you space, and space gives you choice. Choice gives you power. That is how self-mastery begins. A thought can pass through like weather. It can feel dark. It can feel heavy. It can even feel dangerous. But weather is not identity. A storm can move across the sky without becoming the sky. In the same way, a fearful thought can move through your mind without becoming your truth. When you learn this, you stop arguing with every mental cloud. You learn to watch. You learn to wait. You learn to decide. This skill is not only for calm people. It is for tired people. It is for people who feel pressure. It is for people who have made mistakes. It is for people who carry shame. It is for people who are trying again after disappointment. It is for anyone who wants to live with more strength and less confusion. No one becomes free by obeying every mental impulse. Freedom comes when you begin to see the mind clearly. Start with this simple practice. The next time a strong thought appears, do not rush to follow it. Pause. Take one slow breath. Notice the thought as if you were naming what passed by on the street. Say to yourself, "This is a thought, not a fact, not a verdict, not a prophecy, just a thought. This small pause can save you from many unnecessary reactions. It can stop the spiral before it grows. It can turn a moment of panic into a moment of clarity. A man who reacts instantly to every thought is easy to control because his mind controls him. A man who can pause before reacting becomes harder to shake. He is not perfect. He is not emotionless. He is simply trained. He has learned that not every inner voice deserves immediate trust. He has learned that strength often looks like restraint. He has learned that discipline begins in private before it shows in public. This is why self-observation is so important. Watch the mind without fear. Do not hate it. Do not worship it. Do not identify with every movement inside it. Observe the pattern. Notice what appears when you are tired. Notice what appears when you feel rejected. Notice what appears when you face uncertainty. Many of your thoughts will repeat old wounds. Some will repeat old stories from childhood. Some will repeat things other people said to you years ago. Some will repeat a fear that has no real evidence. Once you see the pattern clearly, you stop treating it like a mystery. People often ask why they keep thinking the same negative things. The answer is usually simple. The mind repeats what has been fed to it. If a person has spent years believing criticism, the mind will echo criticism. If a person has spent years rehearsing fear, the mind will return to fear. If a person has trained the mind through self-blame, the mind will keep producing blame. This does not mean the person is doomed. It means the mind has learned a habit. And any habit can be changed through steady practice. That change starts when you stop saying every thought is you. A passing thought may say, I am weak. You do not have to answer with agreement. A passing thought may say, no one cares. You do not have to bow to it. A passing thought may say, give up now. You do not have to obey. The mind can speak loudly and still be wrong. Wisdom is the ability to hear without surrendering. This is one of the greatest lessons of a disciplined life. You do not need to become a slave to whatever appears in the mind. You can treat thoughts like visitors. Some are useful, some are careless, some are honest, some are distorted, some can be welcomed, some should be dismissed. A mature person does not open the door to every visitor and call it kindness. A mature person uses judgment. That judgment grows stronger when you build a habit of reflection. Each day, give yourself a few quiet minutes. Sit still, breathe slowly. Ask what thoughts have been repeating today. Ask which ones helped. Ask which ones harmed. Ask which ones were based on facts and which ones were based on fear. This is not about judging yourself harshly. It is about seeing clearly. A clear mind is a strong mind. Honest self-observation can be uncomfortable at first because it reveals patterns you may have ignored. You may notice that your mind is quick to assume the worst. You may notice that one small setback creates a whole chain of self-doubt. You may notice that praise does not always sink in, but criticism stays for days. You may notice that you are harder on yourself than you would ever be on someone else. These are not reasons for shame. They are signs that awareness is working. Once you can see the pattern, you can begin to change it. One powerful habit is to slow down your response to inner pressure. When a painful thought appears, do not answer it immediately with another thought. First, return to the body. Feel your feet on the ground. Relax your jaw. Unclench your hands. Let your breathing become steady. This tells the nervous system that you are safe enough to think clearly. Many bad decisions happen when the body is tense and the mind is racing. Calm the body and the mind becomes less loud. Then ask a better question. Is this thought useful? Is it true? Is it fully true? What is the evidence? What would I tell a friend who had this thought? Questions like these bring the mind back under guidance. They prevent the mind from becoming a courtroom where fear is both the lawyer and the judge. You do not need to accept the first story that appears. You can examine it. That is strength. Think about how much suffering comes from automatic thinking. A person gets a slow reply and immediately thinks they are being rejected. A person makes one mistake and immediately thinks their future is ruined. A person wakes up low in energy and immediately thinks something is wrong with their life. The mind is fast to create meaning, but not every meaning is correct. Learning to question the mind is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom. There is great value in learning the difference between a thought and an identity. A thought can be messy. Identity should be stable. A thought can be impulsive. Identity should be chosen. A thought can be temporary. Identity should be built on principle. If you say I had a bad thought, then you are describing an event. If you say I am a bad person because I had that thought, then you are making a false identity. Those are not the same. The first is honest. The second is harmful. Many people carry guilt because they do not know this difference. They judge themselves for every mental image, every fear, every impulse, every memory. But the mind is not a courtroom where every passing idea becomes a sentence. A wise person learns to say yes, that thought passed through, and no, it does not define me. That statement alone can lighten a heavy heart. This does not mean you ignore dangerous or destructive patterns. It means you meet them with honesty and discipline instead of panic. If a thought is cruel, you do not become cruel back to yourself. If a thought is false, you do not feed it. If a thought is repetitive, you do not panic over its return. You respond with firmness and calm. That is how inner control grows. It is built through many small moments of refusing to be dragged away. Daily life gives many chances to practice this. When you are criticized, notice the first thought that rises. When plans change, notice the first story your mind tells. When you see someone else succeed, notice what your mind says about you. When you are alone and quiet, notice what your mind brings up. These moments reveal where your training is weak and where it is growing. Self-control is not proven when life is easy. It is proven when the mind is tested. A disciplined life does not mean a life without thoughts. It means a life where thoughts no longer run unchecked. It means you can listen without believing everything. It means you can feel without collapsing. It means you can face a difficult day without turning one thought into a life sentence. That is a rare strength, and it is available to anyone willing to practice. One of the most practical ways to train this skill is through simple labeling. When a negative thought appears, quietly name it. Worry, comparison, fear, shame, anger, doubt. Naming creates distance. It reminds you that a mental event is happening, but it is not the whole story. A person who can name a thought can often reduce its power. The mind loses some of its force when it is seen clearly. Another useful practice is to stop feeding every thought with imagination. The mind often takes a small concern and builds a whole future around it. One mistake becomes a ruined career. One awkward moment becomes proof of worthlessness. One uncertain outcome becomes disaster. This is not wisdom, it is mental exaggeration. When you catch it early, you can stop it. Return to what is actually happening now. Most of the pain people carry is not from the present moment. It is from the story they are building around it. A strong person learns to stay near reality. Reality is often simpler than fear suggests. Reality is often more manageable than the imagination claims. A difficult task is still a task. A bad day is still only a day. A mistake is still something that can be learned from. A delay is not always a defeat. A rejection is not always a verdict. When the mind is trained to stay close to reality, it becomes less dramatic and more effective. This is the kind of thinking that builds resilience. Not fantasy, not denial, not blind optimism. Clear seeing. Clear seeing helps you respond well. Clear seeing helps you choose your next step. Clear seeing keeps you from wasting energy fighting shadows in your own head. A life of control is a life of clear seeing. You will also need patience with yourself. The mind does not change overnight. Old patterns can return even after you understand them. That is normal. The goal is not to never have a negative thought again. The goal is to relate to thoughts differently. Each time you notice one, without obeying it, you strengthen the inner muscle of freedom. Each time you pause instead of react, you grow. Each time you choose the truth over fear, you become more stable. Do not become discouraged if the mind resists training. Any habit that has been repeated for years will not disappear in one day. But repetition works both ways. The same mind that learned fear can learn calm. The same mind that learned self-doubt can learn trust. The same mind that learned to attack can learn to observe. Be patient and keep going. Growth often looks small before it becomes visible. There is also power in what you allow into your mind. You may not control every thought that appears, but you can control what you repeatedly feed. Choose better input. Choose honest conversations. Choose quiet moments. Choose words that build strength. Choose books and voices that remind you of what is possible. Choose habits that steady you instead of draining you. The mind becomes more disciplined when the environment supports discipline. Sleep matters, food matters, movement matters, time in silence matters. A tired mind produces more noise. A neglected body makes the mind more fragile. A hurried life makes inner control harder. You cannot expect clarity while living in constant disorder. Respect your body and your routines because they influence your thoughts more than most people admit. A calmer life often begins with a more ordered day. This is where responsibility becomes important. It is easy to blame the mind. It is harder to lead it. But leadership is what you need. You are not here to follow every thought like a servant following every order. You are here to lead yourself with reason. Lead with patience. Lead with honesty. Lead with principle. Leadership over the mind means deciding what deserves attention and what does not. When fear appears, do not panic. When sadness appears, do not shame yourself. When anger appears, do not become it, feel it. Notice it. Learn from it. Then choose your response. A person who can feel deeply without losing control has real strength. That strength is not loud. It is steady. It does not need to prove itself every hour. It shows itself in restraint, in clarity, and in calm action. A practical question to ask every day is this: what thought deserves my trust right now? Not every thought does. Some are based on old pain. Some are based on insecurity. Some are based on exhaustion. Some are based on a need to protect yourself from disappointment. Those thoughts may feel urgent, but urgency is not the same as truth. Trust the thought only after it has been examined. Another helpful habit is to write down repeated thoughts. This may seem simple, but it is powerful. When a thought is trapped in the mind, it can feel huge and slippery. When you write it down, it becomes visible. Then you can look at it with more objectivity. You can ask whether it is helpful. You can challenge it with facts. You can replace it with something more accurate. Writing slows the mind and reveals patterns that are hidden in speed. Over time, you will begin to notice a shift. The thought still comes, but it no longer rules you as easily. The fear still visits, but it does not stay as long. The insult still stings, but it does not become your identity. The setback still hurts, but it does not destroy your direction. This is what real progress looks like. Not perfection, not invulnerability, freedom. Freedom is the ability to think without being dominated by thought. Freedom is the ability to feel without being lost in feeling. Freedom is the ability to be human without surrendering your character to every passing moment. That kind of freedom is earned through practice. It is built through attention. It is strengthened by honesty and discipline. If you remember only one thing from this chapter, remember this: your mind will always produce movement. Thoughts will come and go. Some will be useful. Some will be harmful. Some will be true. Some will be distorted. But you are not required to obey every one of them. You can watch. You can question. You can pause. You can choose. And in that choice, your real power begins. A person who knows this becomes harder to break, not because life is easy, but because the inner world is no longer a place of surrender. The mind becomes a tool instead of a master. Thought becomes something to work with rather than something to fear. The day becomes more manageable. The self becomes more stable, and life begins to open in a new way. Carry this understanding into your morning. Carry it into your work. Carry it into your relationships. Carry it into moments of pressure. When the mind speaks too fast, remember that speed is not wisdom. When a thought tries to define you, remember that an appearance is not an identity. When fear says to give up, remember that you can pause and choose again. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees them. You are the one who questions them. You are the one who decides what to do next. That is a serious responsibility and a great gift. Use it well, train it daily. Trust it deeply. Over time, you will discover that control is not about crushing the mind. It is about leading it with strength and calm. And that is how a life becomes steadier, wiser, and stronger day by day, Chapter 2. Observe your thoughts calmly and create space before reacting. The moment you stop reacting automatically is the moment your life begins to change. Most people do not suffer only because of what happens to them. They suffer because they react too fast. A single comment can ruin their mood. One delay can throw off their entire day. One mistake can make them speak harshly, think carelessly, or give up too soon. They move from feeling to action so quickly that they never give wisdom a chance to enter the room. That is why calm observation is such a powerful skill. It gives you room, and room gives you freedom. When a strong thought enters the mind, there is often an urge to answer it right away. A worry appears and the body tightens. A fear appears and the heart races. A memory appears and the mood drops. In that moment, the usual habit is to believe the thought and follow it. But there is another way. You can notice the thought without obeying it. You can watch it rise, stay still, and let it pass. That small pause is not weakness. It is strength under control. Think of how much damage comes from instant reaction. A person receives a message and replies in anger. A person hears criticism and shuts down. A person feels pressure and makes a rushed decision. A person becomes afraid and imagines the worst possible outcome. Then later, when the feeling passes, regret comes in. The words were too sharp. The decision was too fast. The fear was too loud. The moment was wasted because there was no space between thought and action. Space is where wisdom lives. Without space, the mind becomes a machine that fires before aiming. With space, you begin to choose. This is one of the most useful lessons in life. You do not need to become cold. You do not need to suppress every emotion. You only need to learn how to pause long enough to see clearly. A calm mind is not a mind that never feels anything. It is a mind that does not get dragged away by every feeling. Observing your thoughts calmly means becoming the watcher instead of the prisoner. It means noticing what is happening inside without panic. It means allowing a thought to exist without turning it into a command. That may sound simple, but it changes everything. The person who can sit with discomfort without reacting is already becoming stronger. The person who can feel pressure without collapsing is building real character. The person who can watch a harsh thought without believing it immediately is developing inner discipline. A practical way to begin is to slow down your first response. The next time something stirs you, do not answer it immediately. Pause for a breath, then another. Relax your face. Unclench your hands. Let your shoulders drop. Notice the thought as a passing event instead of a final truth. Ask yourself what is actually happening and what your mind is adding on top of it. Many times the mind adds drama, urgency, and fear. Once you see that, the thought loses some of its power. This is not about pretending that problems do not exist. It is about meeting them with a clear head. When you are calm, you can think better. You can speak better. You can decide better. You can protect your energy instead of wasting it. Calm observation does not remove difficulty, but it helps you face difficulty with dignity. There is strength in the person who can sit still for a moment while others rush. There is strength in the person who does not answer every insult. There is strength in the person who can feel anger rise and still choose restraint. This kind of strength is rare because it is not loud. It does not demand attention. It works quietly, but its results are powerful. A lot of suffering comes from a lack of inner distance. A person thinks, "I am failing," and immediately sinks into shame. A person thinks, "They do not like me," and immediately feels rejected. A person thinks, "This is too hard," and immediately wants to quit. The thought arrives and becomes the whole reality. That is the problem. The thought should have been observed, not adopted. It should have been examined, not obeyed. You can train a different response. When a painful thought comes, label it gently in your mind. Worry is here. Doubt is here. Anger is here. That naming creates a small gap. It reminds you that a state has appeared, but it is not your entire self. You are larger than the passing wave. You are the one who notices it. That is an important difference. If you want more stability in your daily life, begin practicing this in ordinary moments. Notice what happens when you are stuck in traffic. Notice what happens when someone interrupts you. Notice what happens when plans change. Notice what happens when you feel ignored. These are not small moments, they are training moments. Every irritation is a chance to practice patience. Every delay is a chance to practice calm. Every uncomfortable feeling is a chance to learn how to respond instead of react. The mind often wants quick relief. It wants to escape discomfort at once. It wants to explain everything immediately. It wants certainty before there is time to understand. But life does not always give instant answers. Sometimes the wiser move is to stay still until clarity arrives. That is not passive. That is disciplined. A person who can wait with awareness becomes harder to shake because they no longer need every answer in the first second. One of the best habits you can build is the habit of silence before response. In a conversation, before you speak, take a breath. In a conflict, before you defend yourself, take a breath. In a stressful moment, before you decide, take a breath. That breath creates enough room for reason to step in. It can prevent words you will later regret. It can prevent actions you cannot take back. It can change the entire direction of a situation. The practice of observing calmly also teaches humility. It reminds you that your first thought is not always your best thought. Your first emotion is not always your wisest guide. Your first interpretation is not always correct. This is important because many people trust their first reaction too much. They assume that because a feeling is intense, it must be accurate. But intensity is not the same as truth. A strong feeling can still be misleading. When you observe calmly, you create an inner space where truth can emerge. That space allows you to ask better questions. Is this thought helping me? Is this fear based on facts? Is this anger pointing to something real or something imagined? Is this feeling temporary or is it showing me a pattern I need to address? These questions do not make you weak. They make you wise. You will also notice that calm observation makes you kinder to yourself. Many people attack themselves the moment they feel uncertain. They call themselves lazy, broken, useless, or behind. That kind of inner speech only makes the mind more chaotic. But when you watch your thoughts calmly, you stop feeding cruelty. You begin to treat yourself with more fairness. You can see a bad thought without turning it into a permanent label. That is a healthier way to live. There is also a deep kind of courage in sitting with uncomfortable thoughts without running from them. Some people stay busy all day because they are afraid to be alone with their own mind. Others fill every quiet moment because silence makes them uneasy. But if you can sit quietly and observe what rises without panic, you become more than a person who is distracted by life. You become someone who can face yourself honestly. That is a powerful skill. At first, this practice may feel difficult. The mind may resist. It may keep pulling you into old habits. That is normal. Do not turn difficulty into defeat. Every new discipline feels unnatural before it becomes familiar. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to return again and again to awareness. Each return strengthens you. Each pause trains you. Each calm breath proves that you are not fully controlled by impulse. You may be surprised by how much suffering is created in the tiny gap between thought and reaction. In that gap, fear tries to take over. In that gap, anger tries to take over. In that gap, old habits try to take over. But that is also where your power lies. That is where you can choose not to spiral. That is where you can choose not to insult yourself. That is where you can choose not to rush into a decision you have not examined. A calm person is not a passive person. A calm person sees more clearly. They hear more accurately. They move with purpose instead of panic. They are not without emotion. They are simply not owned by it. That is the kind of inner strength that carries a person through hard seasons. Practice this daily in small ways. When you wake up, do not run straight into the noise of the day. Sit still for a moment and notice what your mind is offering. When you feel tension, do not reach for distraction right away. Stay with the moment long enough to understand it. When you face criticism, pause before answering. When you feel overwhelmed, slow your breathing and reduce the size of the moment. You do not need to solve your whole life in 1 hour. You only need to meet the present moment with steadiness. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. One day you will notice that you can feel pressure without losing your center. One day you will notice that you can hear a difficult thought and not panic. One day you will notice that the mind is still active, but it no longer runs the whole house. That is growth. That is discipline. That is the beginning of real control. Do not underestimate this skill. Calm observation can save relationships. It can protect your reputation. It can improve your decisions. It can reduce regret. It can keep you from speaking when silence would be wiser. It can keep you from quitting when patience would help. It can keep you from believing every fear that passes through your mind. The more you create space before reacting, the stronger your life becomes. You begin to move with more wisdom and less chaos. You become less reactive and more intentional. You stop living like every thought is an emergency. You begin to live like a person who knows how to pause, see clearly, and respond with strength. That is not a small change. That is the beginning of a more disciplined life. And once you taste that kind of inner freedom, you will want to protect it. You will want to practice it. You will want to live from it, because calm observation does something rare. It returns your life to you. Chapter 30. Question negative thoughts and replace them with stronger beliefs. The quality of your life rises the moment you stop accepting every negative thought as truth. Many people move through life believing the harsh voice inside their mind without ever questioning it. That voice can say you are not capable, you are too late, you will fail, or you are not worthy of success. When these messages repeat long enough, they begin to feel like facts. But a repeated thought is not automatically a true one. A strong feeling is not proof of accuracy. The mind can produce many sentences that sound convincing while still being completely wrong. The first step toward real mental strength is learning to challenge what the mind says. Instead of accepting every negative thought immediately, you pause and examine it. This habit may feel unusual at first because many people have never been taught to question their own thinking. They were taught to obey it. But obedience without reflection creates weakness. Reflection creates power. When a negative thought appears, treat it like a statement that must present evidence. Ask yourself simple but honest questions. What proof supports this thought? What proof contradicts it? Is this thought based on facts or on fear? Is this thought helping me grow or pushing me toward doubt? These questions break the automatic cycle that keeps people trapped in their own mental patterns. For example, imagine the mind produces a familiar sentence such as, "I will probably fail." Many people hear that thought and immediately lose motivation. They begin to slow down, doubt themselves, and withdraw effort. But if the thought is questioned, its weakness becomes visible. What real evidence proves failure is certain? What past efforts show growth or progress? What skills have already improved? When you investigate the thought calmly, it often loses its authority. The purpose of questioning is not to lie to yourself, it is to correct distorted thinking. A disciplined mind does not pretend everything is perfect. It simply refuses to accept exaggeration and hopeless conclusions. Honest thinking focuses on what is accurate and useful. It keeps the mind grounded in reality rather than imagination. Negative thoughts often exaggerate problems and ignore possibilities. The mind might say, "This situation is impossible." In reality, the situation may only be difficult. Difficulty is not the same as impossibility. The mind might say, "Everyone is better than me." In reality, many people are learning at the same pace as you. The mind might say, "I ruined everything." In reality, one mistake rarely destroys an entire path. These distortions grow powerful when they are never challenged. Learning to question them restores balance. You begin to see situations with more clarity. Instead of reacting with defeat, you respond with strategy. Instead of assuming the worst outcome, you examine the full picture. That shift in thinking changes the way you act. Clear thinking leads to better effort. Better effort leads to better results. Replacing negative thoughts with stronger beliefs does not mean repeating empty phrases. True mental strength comes from building beliefs that are supported by action and experience. When you correct a harmful thought, replace it with a statement that reflects reality and possibility at the same time. If the mind says, "I cannot handle this challenge," you replace it with a stronger belief such as, "This challenge is difficult, but I can learn how to handle it. That statement does not deny the difficulty. It acknowledges it while still allowing room for growth. A belief like this motivates effort rather than surrender. If the mind says, "I am not talented enough," you replace it with a belief grounded in improvement, such as, "Skill grows with focused practice." This type of belief encourages work. It reminds you that ability is not fixed. Progress belongs to those who continue practicing even when results are slow. If the mind says, "I always fail," you replace it with a balanced belief such as, "Failure is part of learning and I am still developing." This belief removes the false idea that mistakes define the future. It keeps the mind open to progress instead of shutting down. Stronger beliefs create a healthier direction for your attention. Your mind naturally moves toward what it believes is possible. When your beliefs are filled with doubt and final judgments, effort decreases. When your beliefs allow room for development, energy returns. You begin to act with more purpose. A useful daily habit is to catch negative thinking the moment it begins repeating. Repetition gives thoughts their influence. The more a harmful sentence runs through the mind, the more familiar it feels. Familiarity can trick the brain into treating it like truth. Interrupting the pattern early prevents it from gaining strength. One way to interrupt the pattern is by writing the thought down. When a negative idea keeps returning, place it on paper exactly as it appears in your mind. Seeing it written down removes some of its emotional weight. Then examine it carefully. Ask whether the statement is accurate or exaggerated. Ask whether it describes reality or a fear-based interpretation. Once you identify the distortion, create a stronger belief that reflects a healthier perspective. Write that new belief beneath the old one. Read it slowly. Repeat it each time the original thought tries to return. Over time, the stronger belief becomes more familiar than the harmful one. The mind gradually adjusts to the new pattern. Another powerful practice is reviewing the evidence of your own progress. Negative thoughts often ignore improvement. They focus only on what remains unfinished. A person may have learned new skills, solved problems, and overcome obstacles, yet the mind still says, "You are not good enough." Without reflection, these achievements remain invisible. Take time to review the progress you have made, even if it feels small. Remember the challenges you faced months ago that now feel easier. Notice the areas where your confidence has grown. Recognize the habits you have improved. This evidence strengthens healthier beliefs. It reminds you that change is possible and that effort produces results. Environment also plays a role in shaping beliefs. If you constantly listen to voices that promote fear, comparison, or hopelessness, those messages will influence your thinking. Protecting your mental environment is part of building stronger beliefs. Choose information that encourages learning, responsibility, and growth. The people around you also matter. Supportive conversations help reinforce constructive thinking. When you speak with individuals who value discipline and improvement, your mind absorbs their attitude. On the other hand, constant negativity from others can slowly weaken your belief in progress. Choose company that supports the person you are trying to become. Consistency is essential in this process. Questioning negative thoughts once is helpful, but real change comes from repeated practice. Every day the mind will offer new sentences. Some will be helpful, others will not. Your role is to act as a careful filter. You examine what enters and decide what deserves attention. This habit develops mental resilience. Instead of collapsing under criticism or uncertainty, you maintain perspective. When someone doubts your abilities, your mind does not automatically accept the judgment. When a task becomes difficult, your thinking does not instantly turn toward defeat. Strong beliefs provide stability during uncertain moments. A disciplined thinker also recognizes that thoughts influence behavior. When a person believes effort will lead to growth, they practice longer and work harder. When a person believes failure is permanent, they stop trying early. Beliefs guide action, and action shapes results. By improving the quality of your beliefs, you improve the direction of your life. There will still be moments when negative thoughts appear suddenly. Stress, fatigue, or disappointment can trigger them. This does not mean you have failed. It simply means the mind is responding to pressure. What matters is how you respond afterward. Each time you question the thought and replace it with a stronger belief, you reinforce a healthier mental pattern. Think of the mind as a garden that requires regular care. If harmful thoughts are never challenged, they grow freely and take up space meant for better ideas. But when you remove them and plant stronger beliefs, the environment changes. Over time, the healthier thoughts become more natural. Patience is important during this process. Beliefs that formed over many years may not disappear quickly. However, steady correction gradually reshapes the mind. Each challenge to a negative thought weakens its influence. Each stronger belief strengthens your confidence and direction. The result is a mind that works with you instead of against you. Instead of hearing constant doubt, you hear guidance that encourages effort. Instead of repeating harsh judgments, your thinking focuses on solutions and improvement. This shift does not remove every difficulty, but it changes the way you face challenges. When your beliefs become stronger, your actions follow. You approach tasks with determination instead of hesitation. You handle setbacks with learning instead of self-criticism. You continue moving forward even when progress is slow. Strong beliefs create endurance. A person who masters this habit gains a powerful advantage in life. They are no longer controlled by the first negative thought that appears. They evaluate it carefully. They correct it when necessary. They choose beliefs that support growth rather than defeat. The mind becomes a place of direction instead of confusion. Each day offers another opportunity to practice this discipline. Each negative thought becomes a chance to apply wisdom. Each stronger belief becomes another step toward a more stable and confident life. When you question harmful thinking and replace it with beliefs built on effort and truth, you reshape the path ahead. Your thoughts stop working against you and begin working in your favor. Over time, that quiet inner shift produces visible change in the way you act, the way you respond to difficulty, and the way you continue building a life defined by strength and progress. Chapter 40. Train your mind daily to focus on what truly matters. Your future begins to change the moment you decide what deserves your attention. The mind moves constantly. Thoughts appear, disappear, return, and compete for focus. Without guidance, the mind drifts toward distraction, worry, comparison, and unnecessary noise. Many people spend entire days thinking about things that bring no value to their lives. They replay old mistakes, imagine future problems that may never arrive, and chase endless information that does not help them grow. When the mind is scattered like this, energy disappears and progress slows down. Training the mind to focus on what truly matters is one of the most valuable disciplines a person can develop. Attention is a powerful resource. Wherever your attention goes, your effort follows. Wherever your effort goes, results begin to form. When attention is wasted on small concerns and endless distractions, your potential remains unused. When attention is directed toward meaningful goals, improvement begins to take shape. Every day your mind receives hundreds of signals. Messages from people, news from the world, notifications from devices, memories from the past, and worries about the future all compete for space. If you do not choose your focus carefully, the loudest voice will win. The loudest voice is rarely the most important one. It is usually the one that demands immediate attention without offering long-term value. A disciplined mind learns to filter what deserves energy. This skill begins with clarity. You must know what truly matters in your life. Without that clarity, the mind will chase every passing thought. Take time to define what is important. Growth in character, health in body, progress in skill, stability in relationships, purpose in work. These are examples of areas that deserve consistent attention. Once you identify what matters most, your daily thinking begins to change. Instead of reacting to every small distraction, you return your attention to your priorities. This does not mean ignoring responsibilities. It means refusing to waste mental energy on things that do not contribute to your growth or your responsibilities. For example, many people spend hours worrying about the opinions of others. They imagine what people think about them, replay conversations, and analyze every detail. This kind of thinking rarely improves life. It only drains confidence. Training your mind means recognizing when your attention is moving toward something unhelpful and gently bringing it back to what matters. A simple question can guide this process. Ask yourself whether the current thought helps you build the life you want. If the answer is no, shift your focus. That shift may feel small in the moment, but repeated daily it changes the direction of your mind. Training the mind is similar to strengthening a muscle. One moment of focus does not create lasting discipline. Consistent practice does. Each time you redirect your attention from distraction to purpose, you strengthen your ability to concentrate. Over time, the mind becomes less restless and more stable. One powerful practice is beginning the day with clear intention. Before the noise of the world enters your mind, take a few minutes to decide what deserves your attention today. Identify the tasks, habits, and actions that move your life forward. When your priorities are clear in the morning, it becomes easier to protect your focus throughout the day. During the day, many distractions will appear. Some will seem urgent even when they are not important. Messages will arrive. Unexpected problems may surface. Thoughts about the past or future may interrupt your concentration. This is normal. The goal is not to eliminate every distraction. The goal is to return to your focus each time you notice your mind drifting. When the mind wanders toward worry or useless comparison, acknowledge it calmly and guide your attention back to your work. When your thoughts start replaying an old mistake, remind yourself that learning from the past is helpful, but living inside it is not. Bring your attention to the action that improves the present moment. A focused mind also benefits from reducing unnecessary noise. Constant stimulation weakens attention. Endless scrolling, constant notifications, and continuous entertainment train the brain to expect quick stimulation rather than deep concentration. Limiting these habits protects your mental clarity. Create periods during the day where you work without interruption. Even a short period of focused effort can produce meaningful progress. During this time, remove distractions and give your full attention to the task in front of you. When your mind tries to escape into unrelated thoughts, gently return it to the work. Focus also requires patience. Important goals rarely produce instant results. Skill takes time to develop. Habits require repetition before they become natural. Many people lose focus because they expect immediate success. When progress appears slowly, they become distracted by easier activities. A disciplined thinker understands that valuable outcomes grow through steady effort. They stay focused even when results are not immediately visible. Each day of attention adds another layer of progress. Over time, these layers build something meaningful. Training the mind also includes learning where not to place attention. Some situations deserve calm observation rather than emotional involvement. Not every disagreement needs your energy. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every piece of news requires deep analysis. Choosing where to withdraw attention is as important as choosing where to invest it. Emotional control improves when attention is guided wisely. When the mind focuses on constructive tasks, negative thinking loses some of its influence. When attention is directed toward improvement, unnecessary worry becomes less powerful. Focus acts like a shield that protects the mind from being overwhelmed by small disturbances. Another helpful habit is reviewing your focus at the end of the day. Spend a few minutes reflecting on how you used your attention. Ask yourself whether your thoughts supported your goals or distracted you from them. This reflection is not meant to create guilt. It is meant to build awareness. Once you see how your attention was used, you can improve your choices the next day. Many successful individuals share one common quality. They protect their attention carefully. They understand that time alone does not create progress. Focused time creates progress. 2 hours of concentrated effort can achieve more than an entire day filled with distraction. The mind also becomes stronger when it regularly focuses on learning. Reading valuable material, studying useful skills, and reflecting on meaningful ideas train the brain to think with depth. This kind of thinking builds wisdom over time. When your mind spends more time learning than worrying, your perspective becomes more balanced. Healthy routines support focused thinking. Proper rest improves concentration. Physical movement increases mental clarity. Balanced nutrition helps maintain stable energy levels. A tired body makes it difficult to maintain focus. Caring for your physical well-being supports your mental discipline. You will notice that the mind becomes calmer when it is directed toward meaningful effort. Idle thinking often invites unnecessary doubt and worry. Productive activity gives the mind a purpose. When you invest energy in growth, your attention becomes naturally aligned with progress. Over time, this training creates a powerful shift. Your mind begins to choose meaningful thoughts more easily. Distractions still appear, but they lose their control over your attention. You begin to notice them quickly and return to your priorities with less effort. This change affects every area of life. Work becomes more productive. Learning becomes more efficient. Relationships become more thoughtful because you give people your full presence instead of divided attention. Even simple daily activities become more satisfying because you are fully engaged in them. Focusing on what truly matters also reduces unnecessary stress. Many worries come from paying attention to things outside your control. When you concentrate on actions you can influence, your energy becomes more effective. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by everything happening around you, you move steadily in the direction of your goals. This discipline does not require perfection. There will be days when your focus slips and distractions take over. What matters is your willingness to return to the practice. Each day offers a new opportunity to train your attention. The more you guide your mind toward meaningful priorities, the stronger your inner direction becomes. You begin to act with purpose instead of reacting to every passing thought. Your days become structured around progress rather than distraction. A trained mind does not chase every signal from the world. It listens carefully and chooses its response. It recognizes what deserves energy and what should be ignored. It protects its attention like a valuable resource. When you commit to focusing on what truly matters, your life gains clarity, your actions become more intentional, your goals become more reachable. Each day becomes a step forward instead of a series of scattered efforts. Your mind is capable of remarkable focus when it is trained with patience and discipline. Give it clear direction. Return to your priorities often. Protect your attention from unnecessary noise. Continue this practice daily, and you will gradually build a mind that serves your purpose rather than wandering without direction. Chapter 5. Build awareness through quiet reflection and honest self-observation. Real change begins the moment you become brave enough to look at yourself with honesty. Many people spend their entire lives trying to understand the world around them while avoiding a deeper understanding of themselves. They analyze other people, react to situations, and chase results, yet they rarely pause long enough to examine their own thoughts, habits, and behaviors. Without that pause, life becomes a constant reaction instead of a thoughtful direction. Quiet reflection and honest self-observation create a powerful shift. They allow you to see your life clearly rather than moving through it blindly. Awareness is the foundation of improvement. You cannot correct what you refuse to notice. You cannot strengthen what you never examine. When you build the habit of observing your own mind and actions, you begin to understand why certain patterns repeat in your life. Instead of blaming circumstances or other people for every difficulty, you gain insight into how your choices, reactions, and habits shape your experiences. Quiet reflection is not complicated. It simply means giving yourself time to step away from noise and observe what is happening within you. In a world full of constant stimulation, silence can feel unusual at first. Many people rush from one task to another without allowing their minds to settle. Notifications, conversations, and entertainment fill every moment. But clarity often appears when the mind is given space. When you sit quietly for a few minutes and allow your thoughts to slow down, important things begin to surface. You notice how your mind has been reacting throughout the day. You see moments when you acted with patience and moments when you acted with frustration. You recognize habits that help your progress and habits that quietly work against you. This awareness is not meant to produce guilt. It is meant to produce understanding. Honest self-observation requires courage because it asks you to look at yourself without excuses. It asks you to recognize both your strengths and your weaknesses. Many people avoid this process because it can be uncomfortable. It is easier to blame circumstances than to examine personal behavior, yet the people who grow the most are those who accept the responsibility of self-examination. When you observe yourself honestly, you begin to notice patterns that may have gone unnoticed for years. You may see that certain situations trigger impatience. You may discover that stress leads to unproductive habits. You may realize that fear causes hesitation when opportunities appear. These observations are valuable because they reveal areas where growth is possible. Reflection also allows you to recognize the positive qualities you already possess. You may notice moments when you showed resilience, discipline, or kindness. These moments deserve attention because they reveal your potential. Awareness is not only about correcting mistakes. It is also about strengthening what already works. A helpful way to build this habit is by setting aside time each day for quiet thinking. The time does not need to be long. Even 10 minutes of calm reflection can provide meaningful insight. During this time, step away from distractions. Sit in a comfortable place and allow your mind to review the events of the day. Consider the actions you took and the thoughts that guided them. Ask yourself what went well and what could have been handled better. Think about how you responded to challenges and whether your response helped or complicated the situation. These questions guide the mind toward learning rather than judgment. Writing your reflections can deepen the process. When thoughts remain only in the mind, they can become vague and scattered. When you write them down, they become clearer and easier to examine. A journal allows you to track patterns over time. You may notice that certain reactions appear repeatedly in similar situations. Once you see the pattern, you can begin working on a better response. For example, you might realize that pressure causes you to rush decisions. With this awareness, you can practice slowing down when similar situations arise. Instead of reacting automatically, you pause and consider your options. That small change can improve your results significantly. Another benefit of self-observation is the ability to understand your emotional responses. Emotions are powerful signals, but they can also be misleading if they are never examined. Reflection allows you to ask why certain feelings appeared. Instead of simply experiencing anger, disappointment, or anxiety, you explore the reasons behind those emotions. You may discover that a particular frustration comes from unrealistic expectations. You may realize that a recurring worry is based on assumptions rather than facts. These discoveries help you respond with greater balance. Emotions become sources of information rather than forces that control your actions. Quiet reflection also strengthens self-discipline. When you review your day honestly, you become more aware of how your choices affect your progress. You see the difference between moments of focus and moments of distraction. This awareness encourages better decisions in the future. People who never reflect often repeat the same mistakes because they never study their own behavior. They move quickly from one situation to the next without learning from experience. Reflection breaks this cycle. It turns every day into a lesson. Success becomes a teacher, and mistakes become guides for improvement. Self-observation also improves relationships. When you understand your own reactions, you become more patient with others. You recognize how stress or misunderstanding can influence behavior. Instead of responding with immediate judgment, you approach conversations with more calm and clarity. This awareness creates space for better communication. You become more thoughtful in your words because you understand the impact they can have. You listen more carefully because you are not rushing to defend your position. Over time, these small improvements strengthen trust and respect. Another important aspect of reflection is recognizing the influence of your environment. The people you interact with, the information you consume, and the habits you maintain all shape your thinking. When you observe yourself honestly, you begin to see how these influences affect your mood and decisions. You may notice that certain activities drain your energy while others restore it. You may discover that some conversations encourage growth while others create negativity. Awareness allows you to make better choices about where you place your time and attention. Reflection also provides a sense of direction. When you regularly examine your thoughts and actions, you become more aware of the path you are creating. Instead of drifting through life, you guide it with intention. Each day becomes an opportunity to align your actions with your values and goals. It is important to approach this process with patience. Self-understanding develops gradually. Some patterns will become clear quickly, while others may take time to reveal themselves. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress through consistent awareness. During reflection, you may encounter moments when you wish you had acted differently. Instead of dwelling on regret, use those moments as learning opportunities. Ask yourself how you would respond if the situation appeared again. This simple exercise prepares your mind for future challenges. Over time, reflection builds confidence because you know you are learning from experience. You become less afraid of mistakes because you understand they can provide valuable insight. Growth becomes a natural part of daily life rather than a distant goal. Quiet reflection also creates a deeper connection with your values. When the mind is calm, you can think about what truly matters to you. You remember the principles you want to live by and the person you want to become. This clarity guides your decisions throughout the day. Without reflection, it is easy to lose sight of these priorities. Busy schedules and constant distractions can push meaningful goals into the background. Reflection brings them back into focus. It reminds you why your efforts matter. Over time, this practice creates a more stable and thoughtful mind. Instead of reacting automatically to every situation, you approach life with awareness. You understand your strengths, recognize your weaknesses, and continue improving both. The quiet moments you spend observing your thoughts become powerful investments in your future. They allow you to grow with intention rather than accident. They help you develop discipline, patience, and wisdom. Life moves quickly, but reflection slows it down just enough for learning to occur. Each day becomes a classroom where experience turns into understanding. With each honest observation, you become more aware of who you are and who you are becoming. That awareness becomes a guiding force in your life. It shapes your actions, strengthens your decisions, and helps you stay aligned with your purpose. Through quiet reflection and honest self-observation, you gradually build a life that reflects clarity, responsibility, and steady personal growth. Chapter 6e: Strengthen emotional control through consistent mindful daily practice. True strength appears when your emotions no longer control your actions. Every person experiences emotions. They rise quickly, sometimes without warning, and they can feel powerful. Anger can surge in a moment of disagreement. Fear can appear when facing uncertainty. Frustration can grow when plans fall apart. Joy can lift your energy. Sadness can quiet your spirit. Emotions are natural signals that the mind and body respond to events. The problem begins when these signals take over the steering wheel of your life. Many people react immediately to how they feel. If anger appears, they speak harshly. If fear arrives, they withdraw. If disappointment grows, they lose motivation. These reactions may feel natural, but they often lead to regret and missed opportunities. Emotional control does not mean becoming cold or emotionless. It means developing the ability to experience feelings without letting them dictate every decision. Strengthening emotional control requires practice, and that practice begins with awareness. When an emotion appears, the first step is recognizing it clearly. Instead of being swept away by the feeling, you pause and identify what is happening inside you. You acknowledge the emotion without immediately acting on it. This pause is powerful because it separates feeling from reaction. Mindful daily practice helps develop this skill. Mindfulness simply means paying attention to your present experience with clarity. When you practice mindfulness regularly, you become more familiar with the patterns of your mind and body. You learn how emotions rise, how they change, and how they eventually fade if you allow them space. A useful exercise is focusing on your breathing when emotions intensify. The breath is always available and always connected to your state of mind. When stress increases, breathing becomes shallow and rapid. By slowing the breath deliberately, you signal to your body that it can calm down. A few steady breaths can reduce the intensity of emotional reactions and restore clarity. When you feel a strong emotion building, take a moment to breathe slowly and deeply. Notice the sensation of air entering and leaving your body. Allow your shoulders to relax. Let the tension in your muscles soften. This simple act may appear small, but it gives your mind time to regain balance before responding. Another valuable practice is observing emotions without labeling them as good or bad. Many people struggle because they try to push certain feelings away. They believe anger should never appear or sadness should be hidden. In reality, resisting emotions often makes them stronger. Mindful observation allows emotions to exist without adding extra judgment. When frustration appears, notice it calmly. Recognize the tightness in your chest or the change in your breathing. Observe the sensation as if you were watching a passing cloud. By doing this, you learn that emotions are temporary experiences rather than permanent states. This understanding weakens their ability to control your behavior. Daily mindfulness can also be practiced during ordinary activities. When you walk, pay attention to the movement of your steps. When you eat, notice the taste and texture of the food. When you speak with someone, listen carefully to their words instead of preparing your next response. These small moments of awareness train your mind to stay present rather than being pulled constantly into distraction. As your awareness grows, emotional control becomes easier because you recognize changes in your mood earlier. Instead of reaching a point where anger suddenly explodes, you notice the first signs of irritation. Instead of being overwhelmed by anxiety, you recognize the early signals of tension. This early awareness allows you to respond calmly before emotions become overwhelming. Consistency is the key to this development. Emotional discipline cannot be built in a single day. Just like physical strength grows through repeated exercise, mental strength grows through repeated practice. Each time you respond calmly instead of reacting impulsively, you strengthen your emotional stability. Life will continue to present challenging situations. People will disagree with you. Plans will change unexpectedly. Mistakes will occur. These moments are not obstacles to emotional control. They are opportunities to practice it. Each challenge becomes a training ground for strengthening your ability to remain steady. Another helpful habit is reflecting on emotional reactions at the end of the day. Consider moments when you felt strong emotions and ask yourself how you responded. Did your reaction improve the situation or create more difficulty? What could you do differently next time? This reflection transforms everyday experiences into valuable lessons. Over time, this process builds wisdom. You begin to understand which situations trigger certain emotions and how to handle them more effectively. Emotional control becomes a skill you can rely on instead of something that appears only occasionally. Physical habits also influence emotional stability. Regular movement helps release built-up tension from the body. When energy is allowed to circulate through activity, the mind becomes calmer. A walk outside, light exercise, or stretching can reduce emotional pressure and restore mental balance. Adequate rest also plays an important role. When the body is exhausted, emotional reactions become stronger and harder to manage. A tired mind struggles to think clearly and tends to react impulsively. Protecting your sleep and maintaining healthy routines support emotional discipline. Gratitude is another powerful tool for balancing emotions. When the mind focuses only on problems, frustration grows easily. Taking time each day to acknowledge positive aspects of life shifts your perspective. It reminds you that challenges exist alongside opportunities and support. Even in difficult moments, there are usually small things worth appreciating. A supportive friend, a lesson learned, or the ability to try again tomorrow can all bring balance to the mind. Gratitude does not remove difficulties, but it prevents them from becoming the entire focus of your attention. Emotional control also improves communication with others. When you respond calmly, conversations become more productive. Instead of escalating conflicts, you create space for understanding. People feel more comfortable sharing their thoughts when they know they will be heard without immediate judgment. This calm presence influences the environment around you. Others often mirror the emotional tone they receive. When you remain composed, tension decreases and solutions become easier to find. Emotional discipline therefore benefits not only your own life, but also the relationships you build. There will still be moments when emotions rise unexpectedly. Even disciplined individuals experience frustration, disappointment, and worry. The difference lies in how those emotions are handled. Instead of becoming trapped in them, you allow them to pass while maintaining control over your actions. This ability grows stronger each time you practice mindfulness and reflection. Your mind becomes familiar with the process of observing emotions rather than being consumed by them. Gradually, emotional stability becomes part of your character. When emotional control strengthens, decision-making improves. You think more clearly under pressure. You avoid choices driven by temporary feelings. Your actions align more closely with your values and long-term goals. Daily practice does not require dramatic changes. It begins with simple moments of awareness throughout your routine. A few mindful breaths during stress, careful attention during conversations, and honest reflection at the end of the day all contribute to steady progress. Over time, these small efforts reshape the way you experience emotions. Instead of reacting instantly, you pause and choose your response. Instead of feeling controlled by circumstances, you develop confidence in your ability to remain balanced. This balance becomes a quiet form of strength. It allows you to move through life with greater clarity and patience. Challenges still appear, but they no longer throw you into chaos. You face them with a steady mind and a calm presence. Through consistent, mindful daily practice, emotional control becomes a reliable part of who you are. Your mind grows stronger, your reactions become wiser, and your life moves forward with greater stability and purpose. Chapter 7. Choose empowering thoughts that support growth, confidence, and progress. Your life begins to change the moment you decide that your thoughts will serve your future instead of limiting it. Every day the mind produces thousands of thoughts. Many appear automatically shaped by past experiences, fears, habits, and outside influences. Most people accept these thoughts without questioning them. If the mind whispers doubt, they believe it. If the mind repeats failure from the past, they carry that memory into the present moment. Over time, these patterns quietly shape behavior, decisions, and the direction of a person's life. The truth is simple but powerful. Thoughts are choices once you become aware of them. You cannot control every idea that appears in your mind, but you can decide which ones deserve your attention. When you intentionally choose thoughts that strengthen your belief in growth, confidence, and progress, you begin to transform the way you approach challenges and opportunities. An empowering thought does not ignore reality. It does not pretend that life is easy or that obstacles do not exist. Instead, it directs your focus toward possibility and action. It asks constructive questions such as, "What can I learn from this situation?" or "What step can I take next?" This kind of thinking encourages movement forward rather than keeping the mind trapped in hesitation. Confidence is built from repeated evidence that you can face situations and respond with courage. Empowering thoughts support this process by guiding your attention toward solutions instead of problems. When the mind believes progress is possible, it becomes easier to take the actions that create that progress. Consider how differently a challenge feels depending on the thought that accompanies it. If the mind says, "I cannot handle this," your energy drops immediately, motivation fades before you even begin. But when the mind says, "This may be difficult, but I can learn how to manage it," your attitude shifts. The situation remains the same, yet your approach becomes stronger and more determined. This shift begins with awareness of your internal dialogue. Many people carry a constant stream of criticism inside their minds. They replay mistakes, question their abilities, and compare themselves to others. Over time, this internal conversation weakens confidence and discourages effort. Replacing this pattern requires conscious effort. The first step is noticing when discouraging thoughts appear. Instead of accepting them as facts, pause and examine them carefully. Ask whether the thought is helping you grow or holding you back. If it reduces your belief in yourself without offering useful guidance, it is not a thought worth keeping. Empowering thoughts are constructive and realistic. They acknowledge difficulty while encouraging persistence. They remind you that improvement is possible through effort and learning. They guide the mind toward productive action rather than endless worry. One practical way to strengthen empowering thoughts is through intentional repetition. The mind learns through repeated exposure. When you consistently introduce positive and constructive ideas, they gradually become familiar patterns. Over time, these patterns replace older habits that once dominated your thinking. For example, when facing a new challenge, remind yourself that growth always involves learning something unfamiliar. Every skill that appears natural today was once unknown. Every confident person once stood at the beginning of their journey. Progress comes from practice and patience. When you think in this way, you create a mental environment that supports development. Instead of fearing mistakes, you recognize them as information. Instead of avoiding difficulty, you understand that challenge is part of improvement. Another helpful approach is visualizing the direction you want your life to move. When your mind clearly imagines progress, it becomes easier to align your daily actions with that vision. You begin to see opportunities that previously passed unnoticed because your attention is now focused on growth. Visualization works because the brain responds strongly to images and expectations. When you picture yourself handling situations with confidence, your mind begins preparing for that possibility. This preparation influences how you behave when real opportunities appear. However, empowering thoughts must always connect to action. Positive thinking alone cannot produce meaningful results without effort. The purpose of constructive thinking is to strengthen your willingness to take steps that lead to improvement. Each time you choose a thought that encourages action, you build momentum. Small decisions accumulate and gradually transform your habits. A single productive thought may lead to a small task. That task builds confidence and encourages another step. Over time, this chain of actions creates significant progress. The environment around you also affects the thoughts you choose. The ideas you hear from others, the information you consume, and the conversations you participate in all influence your mental patterns. Surrounding yourself with constructive influences supports your effort to maintain empowering thinking. Pay attention to the messages you absorb each day. Seek information that encourages learning and growth. Spend time with people who believe in improvement and effort. Limit exposure to voices that constantly repeat negativity without offering solutions. Your mind is like a field where ideas grow. If you plant seeds of confidence, curiosity, and determination, those qualities begin to flourish. If the field is filled with doubt and fear, those elements spread quickly as well. Choosing empowering thoughts is similar to deciding what kind of environment you want inside your own mind. Gratitude also plays a valuable role in strengthening constructive thinking. When you take time to recognize what is working well in your life, you shift attention away from constant criticism. This balanced perspective helps the mind remain steady even when facing challenges. Acknowledging progress, no matter how small, reinforces confidence. It reminds you that improvement is already happening. Each step forward becomes evidence that effort produces results. Empowering thoughts also encourage patience. Growth rarely happens overnight. Meaningful development takes time, practice, and persistence. When your thinking supports patience, you avoid the frustration that often causes people to give up too early. Instead of demanding instant perfection, you appreciate steady improvement. Each day becomes an opportunity to learn something new or refine a skill. This mindset keeps motivation alive during the long process of personal development. Another important aspect of empowering thinking is responsibility. When you accept responsibility for your choices and actions, you recognize that you have influence over your direction in life. This understanding strengthens confidence because it places control within your reach rather than outside it. Responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for every difficulty. It means acknowledging your ability to respond thoughtfully to situations. Even when circumstances are challenging, your mindset and actions remain powerful tools for shaping your path. Over time, empowering thoughts become natural habits. The mind learns to search for possibilities instead of limitations. Confidence grows because your internal dialogue supports your goals rather than undermining them. This transformation changes the way you approach life. Opportunities feel less intimidating because you trust your ability to learn and adapt. Setbacks become lessons rather than permanent barriers. Progress becomes a continuous journey guided by thoughtful decisions. When your thoughts consistently support growth, your actions reflect that belief. You try new ideas, develop new skills, and explore possibilities that once seemed unreachable. Each step reinforces the understanding that your mindset influences the quality of your life. Choosing empowering thoughts every day is a quiet but powerful commitment to your own development. It shapes how you see yourself, how you respond to challenges, and how you move toward your goals. With consistent practice, the voice inside your mind becomes an ally that encourages courage, persistence, and curiosity. That supportive voice strengthens confidence, fuels progress, and reminds you that growth remains possible as long as you continue choosing thoughts that lead you forward. Chapter 80. Practice daily discipline to guide your mind with intention. Discipline is the force that turns good intentions into a real life. Many people understand what they should do. They know the habits that would help them. They know the actions that would improve their health, work, focus, and peace of mind. Yet knowing is not the same as doing. A person can have a clear goal and still drift through the day without direction. That is why discipline matters so much. It gives structure to thought. It gives shape to effort. It gives your mind a direction before mood and impulse take over. Without discipline, the mind moves wherever it feels like going. It follows distraction. It follows comfort. It follows the easiest path available in the moment. That might bring brief relief, but it rarely creates a strong future. Discipline is different. It asks what matters most and then helps you act according to that answer, even when you do not feel fully ready. It is the quiet habit of leading yourself well. Daily discipline begins with simple choices. Wake up when you said you would wake up. Begin the task you have been avoiding. Return to the plan instead of waiting for perfect motivation. Speak with care instead of letting frustration guide your words. Finish what you start. These are not small details. These are the building blocks of a disciplined mind. Every repeated choice teaches the brain what kind of person you are becoming. A disciplined person does not wait for life to become easy before taking responsibility. They understand that difficulty is part of the process. They do not ask for a life without resistance. They learn how to move through resistance with steadiness. This is what gives discipline its power. It creates reliability inside the self. It means your choices are no longer controlled by passing feelings alone. If you want to guide your mind with intention, you must first decide what kind of life you are building. Without a clear direction, the mind will fill the space with random thoughts and low-value habits. Intention gives shape to the day. It tells the mind where to place energy. It helps you decide what deserves attention and what should be ignored. A life without intention becomes scattered. A life with intention begins to gain order. Start each day by choosing your priorities before the noise begins. Decide what matters most today. It may be one important task. It may be a difficult conversation. It may be a promise to stay calm under pressure. It may be a commitment to avoid unnecessary distraction. Whatever it is, make it clear. The mind works better when it knows where to go. Ambiguity weakens focus. Clear purpose strengthens it. Daily discipline also means protecting your time from habits that steal your strength. Not every distraction is obvious. Some arrive disguised as harmless routines that slowly drain your energy. Excessive scrolling, constant checking, delaying important work, letting small comforts replace meaningful effort. These habits do not always feel harmful in the moment, but they quietly train the mind to avoid responsibility. Discipline reverses that pattern by teaching the mind to value purpose over impulse. One of the strongest acts of discipline is doing the important thing before you feel like it. This is where many people lose ground. They wait for motivation and then wonder why progress feels slow. Motivation is useful but unreliable. Discipline is more dependable. It keeps you moving even when energy is not perfect. It helps you stay on course when the mind would rather wander. The more you practice this, the less control your mood has over your direction. You begin to understand that feelings can be real without being in charge. You may feel tired and still complete the task. You may feel uncertain and still take the next step. You may feel resistance and still choose what matters. That ability changes the quality of your life. It makes progress possible on ordinary days, not only on inspired ones. Self-respect grows when discipline becomes a daily habit. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, confidence rises a little more. Every time you follow through, your mind receives evidence that you can be trusted. This matters because many people lose confidence not from failure alone, but from repeatedly ignoring their own commitments. When promises are broken too often, the mind begins to doubt your direction. Discipline rebuilds that trust. A disciplined day does not require perfection, it requires honesty. Some days you will do well, some days you will struggle. The point is not to judge yourself harshly. The point is to return to the standard you chose. If you drift, come back. If you delay, begin again. If you lose focus, correct it. This return is part of discipline too. It keeps you from turning one bad moment into a bad identity. Intention also means choosing what kind of thoughts you allow to stay. The mind will always offer noise. Some thoughts encourage effort. Some thoughts invite laziness. Some thoughts support courage. Some thoughts protect fear. A disciplined person learns to notice these patterns and respond with clarity. Not every thought deserves a seat at the table. Some thoughts should be recognized and then released. Others should be welcomed because they help move life forward. A useful daily practice is to pause before important actions and ask whether what you are about to do supports your long-term goals. That question can save you from many wasted hours. It brings the mind back to purpose. It reminds you that every choice carries direction. Even small decisions shape the kind of person you become. Discipline works best when it is applied to ordinary moments, not only major ones. Your environment will also influence your discipline. A messy, chaotic, or overstimulating environment makes focus harder. A simple and organized environment makes self-control easier. This does not mean your life must be perfect or polished. It means you should create conditions that help your mind stay steady. Clear spaces often support clear thinking. Regular routines often support stable effort. The outside world and the inner world affect each other more than many people realize. Physical habits are part of mental discipline too. Sleep, movement, hydration, and nourishment all affect how well your mind can stay directed. A tired body often produces a restless mind. When you care for your body with consistency, you make it easier for your thoughts to remain steady. Discipline is not only mental, it is lived through the body every day. One of the deepest rewards of discipline is peace, not the peace that comes from avoiding responsibility, but the peace that comes from knowing you are living with purpose. A disciplined person does not carry the constant weight of unfinished promises and wasted potential. They may still face challenges, but they are not fighting themselves at every step. Their life has a center. Their mind has direction. Their actions have meaning. As this habit grows, you begin to notice a shift in your identity. You stop seeing discipline as punishment and start seeing it as freedom. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from regret. Freedom from the loss of time and energy. Discipline is not about living rigidly. It is about living intentionally. It helps you place your power where it matters most. The more you practice daily discipline, the more your mind learns to trust your leadership. It stops pulling you in every direction. It begins to follow the structure you create. That structure gives your life shape. It helps you become calmer under pressure, clearer in thought, and stronger in action. Each day is a chance to guide your mind with intention. Each choice is a chance to strengthen your character. Each act of follow-through is another step toward mastery. When discipline becomes a daily habit, your thoughts no longer wander without direction. They begin to serve your future. Chapter 19: Release harmful mental patterns and build healthier thinking habits. You can change the direction of your life by changing the habits of your mind. Many people carry mental patterns that have been repeated for so long they no longer notice them. The same self-doubt returns in new situations. The same fear appears before every challenge. The same criticism plays again and again after one mistake. Over time, these patterns begin to feel normal, even when they are clearly harmful. They shape how a person sees the world, how they speak to themselves, and how they respond to pressure. If nothing changes, the mind keeps walking the same old path. But a path that was formed by fear does not have to remain your home. Releasing harmful mental patterns starts with awareness. You cannot heal what you refuse to see. Many people try to change their lives while avoiding the thoughts that quietly hold them back. They want better results but continue feeding the same inner habits that create frustration. That is why lasting change begins when you become honest about the thoughts you repeat most often. Ask yourself what kind of thinking appears when you feel stressed. Notice what happens when you fail, when you are ignored, when you compare yourself to others, or when life feels uncertain. These moments reveal the patterns that need to be released. Some harmful patterns come from fear of failure. The mind says do not try because you might be embarrassed. Some come from fear of not being enough. The mind says stay small because growth feels risky. Some come from old pain. The mind says expect disappointment because that will protect you. These patterns may have once felt protective, but over time they become barriers. They keep a person safe from discomfort while also keeping them away from growth. What once seemed like protection can slowly become a prison. To release a harmful pattern, begin by naming it clearly. The mind loses some of its power when it is seen for what it is. If you notice constant self-criticism, name it as self-criticism. If you notice a habit of assuming the worst, name it as fear-based thinking. If you notice a tendency to give up early, name it as avoidance. This simple act creates distance between you and the pattern. You stop confusing the habit with your identity. You realize that a pattern is something you do, not something you must become. Once you see the pattern, interrupt it gently but firmly. Do not wait for the pattern to correct itself. Replace it with a better response. If the mind says you always fail, remind yourself that one result does not define your future. If the mind says you cannot improve, point to the evidence of times when effort did help. If the mind says everything is ruined, bring your attention back to the next useful step. The goal is not to fight the mind with anger. The goal is to train it with truth. Building healthier thinking habits requires repetition. The mind learns through patterns, so it must be given better patterns often enough to matter. A single good thought is helpful, but a repeated practice is what creates change. Start with small moments throughout the day. When a negative thought appears, pause and choose a more useful one. When the mind wants to spiral into blame, redirect it toward responsibility. When it starts comparing your progress to someone else's, return to your own path. These choices seem small in the moment, but they slowly reshape the mind. Healthy thinking habits are practical. They support action, calm, and resilience. A healthy thought helps you move forward. It helps you stay steady under pressure. It encourages learning instead of shame. It keeps you focused on what can be done rather than what cannot be changed. When the mind begins to favor these kinds of thoughts, life becomes less chaotic and more manageable. One useful habit is to question whether a thought helps you grow. If it does not, it may not deserve your attention. This question is simple, but it is powerful. It helps you stop feeding thoughts that only drain energy. Some thoughts repeat out of habit, not because they are true or useful. Once you stop rewarding them with attention, they begin to lose strength. Another powerful habit is replacing vague fear with specific action. Harmful thinking often keeps a person stuck because it deals in broad, overwhelming ideas. The mind says everything is too much or nothing will work, but healthier thinking asks what can be done right now. Can you make one call? Can you write one page? Can you take one walk? Can you clean one space? Can you complete one task? Specific action breaks the spell of helpless thinking. It brings the mind back to reality and restores a sense of direction. The people around you can either support healthy thinking or feed harmful thinking. Pay attention to the conversations you allow into your daily life. Certain voices strengthen doubt, gossip, bitterness, and fear. Others encourage patience, effort, and responsibility. You do not have to remove every difficult influence from your life, but you can become more careful about what you absorb. The mind becomes more stable when it is not constantly fed with destructive ideas. Your body also affects your thinking more than many people realize. Fatigue makes harmful thoughts louder. Stress makes the mind more reactive. Poor routines make it harder to stay clear. A steady daily rhythm supports healthier mental habits. Rest when needed. Move your body. Spend time in quiet. Create space for your thoughts to settle. A healthier mind is not built by thinking alone. It is supported by the way you live each day. It helps to remember that change is a process. Harmful mental patterns do not disappear instantly. They may return many times before they weaken. That does not mean you are failing. It means your mind is learning a new path. Every time you notice the old pattern and choose a better response, you strengthen the new habit. Over time, the new way of thinking becomes more natural than the old one. Do not be discouraged when old thoughts return during stress. That is often when they appear strongest. Instead of panicking, recognize that this is part of the process. You are not starting over. You are practicing again. Each return to truth makes the healthier habit more stable. Each moment of awareness builds resilience. Each deliberate choice gives your mind a cleaner direction. Healthy thinking habits also support emotional balance. When the mind is no longer feeding every fear and assumption, emotions become easier to understand and manage. You begin to respond with more calm because your thinking is less distorted. This creates a better life from the inside out. Decisions improve. Relationships improve. Focus improves. Even difficult days become more bearable because your mind is no longer working against you. There is quiet strength in a mind that has been trained to think well. It no longer rushes toward hopeless conclusions. It no longer clings to every fear. It no longer repeats old stories without question. It learns to observe. It learns to pause. It learns to choose. That is how harmful patterns are released and healthier habits take root. Every day gives you another chance to practice. You can choose one thought that no longer serves you and replace it with one that does. You can choose one small action that strengthens your mind. You can choose to stop feeding what weakens you and begin feeding what builds you. That is how transformation happens. Not all at once, but steadily through repeated choice. The mind becomes healthier the same way a body becomes stronger, not by wishing but by training. Not by hoping harmful patterns will vanish, but by practicing better ones until they become part of who you are. When you keep choosing wisdom over fear, progress over paralysis, and clarity over confusion, your thinking begins to change. And when your thinking changes, your life begins to change with it. Chapter 10. Commit to lifelong self-mastery through conscious daily thinking. True freedom and strength come when you take full responsibility for the thoughts that guide your life. Every person has the ability to shape their mind, but few commit to the level of conscious effort required to achieve mastery. Lifelong self-mastery is not a destination, it is a daily practice. It is the consistent decision to observe, direct, and refine your thoughts so they serve your growth instead of sabotaging it. Every day offers an opportunity to exercise this skill. When practiced consciously, it becomes the foundation of resilience, clarity, and meaningful progress in every aspect of life. The first step toward mastery is awareness. You must know your mind's tendencies, the patterns it favors, and the automatic reactions it produces under pressure. Awareness is the light that reveals how your thoughts shape your emotions, behaviors, and decisions. Without it, mastery is impossible because you cannot change what you cannot see. Pay attention to the thoughts that repeat in moments of stress, fatigue, or uncertainty. Notice what you tell yourself when you fail, when you are challenged, and when opportunity presents itself. This self-observation is not judgmental, it is factual and practical. It allows you to understand where intervention is required. Mastery requires discipline. Daily practice trains your mind to respond rather than react, to focus rather than drift, and to choose rather than be dictated to by circumstance. Discipline is not about rigidity or punishment, it is the structure that supports intentional living. Small daily habits, pausing before reacting, reflecting on choices, and consistently redirecting unhelpful thoughts compound over time. Each disciplined moment builds mental strength. Each repeated choice reinforces the understanding that your mind follows the patterns you establish. Self-mastery also demands responsibility. It is easy to blame others, circumstances, or past experiences for challenges. True mastery, however, comes from accepting that your responses, not the events themselves, determine your outcomes. This mindset does not deny reality. It empowers you to act with control. The moment you take responsibility for your thoughts, you reclaim authority over your life. No external condition can remove the internal discipline you cultivate. Your mind becomes a tool instead of a battleground. Another key element is intentional focus. Every thought you choose has an impact, and every habit you reinforce shapes your future. Consciously deciding which thoughts deserve attention allows you to invest energy in growth, learning, and productive action. Avoid letting the mind wander into useless worry, self-doubt, or unproductive comparisons. Instead, train it to concentrate on solutions, opportunities, and personal development. Like a muscle, focus strengthens with repeated exercise and intentional use. Resilience grows naturally from self-mastery. A trained mind does not collapse under adversity. It responds with clarity and calm. Challenges become opportunities to refine skill, patience, and judgment rather than sources of fear or frustration. Each moment of conscious decision-making builds confidence in your ability to navigate life's uncertainties. Over time, this creates an inner stability that is not dependent on external validation or comfort. To cultivate lifelong mastery, integrate reflection into daily routines. Set aside moments to review your actions, assess your thinking, and plan improvements. Honest self-evaluation identifies where thought patterns are weak or harmful. It also highlights successes and reinforces effective strategies. Reflection is not self-criticism. It is a practical tool for continuous refinement. It bridges the gap between intention and action, ensuring that you grow steadily instead of spinning in circles. Healthy habits also support mastery. Sleep, nutrition, movement, and mindfulness affect how well the mind can operate. A well-cared-for body supports a disciplined mind. A restless or fatigued body undermines control and clarity. Consistently attending to both physical and mental well-being strengthens your capacity for conscious thinking and sustained focus. This holistic approach ensures that mastery is not theoretical but lived every day. Commitment is the final cornerstone. Self-mastery cannot be occasional or sporadic. It requires a lifetime of attention and effort. There will be days when the mind resists, when impulses are strong, or when challenges feel overwhelming. Commitment means returning each day, recommitting to conscious thinking, and maintaining momentum despite setbacks. This consistency shapes identity. Gradually, the choice to practice mastery becomes instinctive. The mind naturally aligns with purpose, and your life becomes a reflection of deliberate effort. Mastery also thrives on continual learning. A mind that believes it has arrived is vulnerable to complacency. Seek new knowledge, test new strategies, and challenge old assumptions. Learning keeps the mind flexible, adaptive, and ready to navigate change. Consciously integrating new ideas and insights strengthens mental agility, allowing you to adjust responses with wisdom rather than habit or fear. Lifelong growth is inseparable from self-mastery. Patience is essential. Real mastery does not appear overnight. It develops quietly, steadily, and persistently. Progress may seem slow at first, but each conscious effort builds on the previous ones. Moments of distraction, failure, or difficulty do not erase progress. They provide opportunity for renewed practice. Persistence transforms ordinary days into the building blocks of extraordinary mental strength. Finally, self-mastery empowers action. The mind, trained to think consciously, directs the body, decisions, and life with precision. Goals become achievable, challenges become manageable, and personal potential expands. You are no longer a passenger in your life. You navigate with awareness, intention, and resilience. The clarity that comes from conscious thinking allows you to choose the life you want, instead of reacting to the life you receive. Daily practice is the gateway to mastery. Each day, review your thinking patterns, interrupt harmful thoughts, reinforce constructive ones, and take deliberate action. Even small, consistent efforts compound into profound transformation. Every moment of conscious choice strengthens the mind and reinforces the identity of a person committed to growth, clarity, and purposeful living. Self-mastery through conscious daily thinking is not a path of ease, it is a path of freedom. Freedom from distraction, freedom from uncontrolled emotion, freedom from the chaos of unconscious habit. Freedom comes from deliberate practice, sustained discipline, and unwavering commitment. Every thought directed with awareness brings you closer to that freedom. Every action aligned with intention strengthens your life, and every habit cultivated with care defines the trajectory of your future. You can begin immediately. Observe your mind with honesty, direct it with intention, and commit to the habits that strengthen clarity, resilience, and purposeful action. Over time, this daily commitment transforms ordinary moments into profound progress. The life you desire is not a distant dream. It is the cumulative result of conscious thought applied consistently. When you dedicate yourself to lifelong self-mastery, you become the author of your mind, the architect of your choices, and the builder of a life defined by deliberate growth and enduring strength. Every day is a new opportunity to practice mastery. Every thought is a choice. Every action is a step. With conscious effort and persistent discipline, you shape your mind, your life, and your future. The power to achieve mastery is within reach, and it grows steadily through the actions you take now, consistently, consciously, and with unwavering purpose.